The greatest problem in this world is that people are too fucking scared to be themselves. Scared of what others think. Why? Because society made you fit into a tiny little box.
Welcome back to the Feeling Alive podcast, ladies and gentlemen. This is Luca Reedy, and I'm glad to be here with you. Today's episode, I'm going to be diving into a common problem that we have on the healing journey, on the self-development journey, where you feel like you're getting worse. And in fact, I want to change the story on that and give you a new perspective, because you're actually not getting worse. You're getting better. So this is for all you folk who are doing the work on yourselves, the work to become the better version of yourself. And this issue that I'm talking about today, this common issue, come up recently in my field, and I thought, it's very necessary. I think this is what I'm going to talk about next week. But before we begin, I want to clarify, what working on yourself means, because you hear this a lot in the self-development realms, in the healing realms, the coaching realms. Everyone's saying, I'm working on myself, or I'm working to be better, I'm doing the work on myself. When you're working on yourself, you're either on this self-development bandwagon or deep along your healing journey with one goal in mind, and that's for you to find the better version of yourself. You're just working on creating the better version of yourself. That's all what I'm talking about when we're doing any self-development work. You're looking at seeing how you can become the best version of yourself, to find your definition of success. When you're healing, you're finding the truest version of yourself. You're going back to the core, and everything I'm talking about right now is in this episode is based around this process of finding the best version of yourself. And one of the common challenges that we find is when we're trying to heal something. You might be working on something right now. You're trying to change a pattern of behavior, or reprogram a belief system, or maybe you're getting triggered emotionally a lot and you don't like that, and so you have the awareness of that, and now you want to heal that, you want to change that. And because that, you can see that isn't benefiting you or the people around you, and in fact it's creating a lot of resistance, it's creating a lot of animosity, it's creating a lot of tension, it's creating a lot of drama. And so you will identify that and you'll go, I don't like the way that I'm showing up. This is all about the work that you're doing on yourself, not the work that anyone else is doing. That's their problem. But we're going to be focusing on that. And so when you start doing all this work, you've got the awareness of it, you've got the desire to change, you create your intention, pretty much the desire to change and the awareness of it, of what you want to change is the intention. And the intention is a superpower. Intention is so powerful in every area of your life. It's your why. Why am I doing it? So you've got this intention, you've got this process, and you're starting to heal. And you feel like sometimes you're making a good break. You're like, yeah, I'm not really doing it anymore. It's in my conscious awareness. I'm that action or behavior that I don't want to do, that emotional reaction that I wanted to stop. I'm not really doing that as much anymore. And maybe you're doing some work with a counselor, a coach, a therapist, or you're doing some breath work or any other type of healing modality, life coaching, whatever it is. And you're going, wow, I'm really aware of this now. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I just keep doing it. I can't break through. I can't get out of this. It just keeps happening. I keep getting triggered and triggered and triggered. Just take a chill pill. The first thing is, observation is the start of realization, the realization of your true self. Okay, remember that. Observation is the start of the realization. Sometimes that's all it takes. But as long as you know what you want to change, you bring awareness to it, you're going to begin the process of self-development, begin the process of healing, begin the process of becoming your best self. But when you come back to this moment of this, you're feeling like I'm not getting any better, or the situation isn't changing, however far you are along this process, it's not actually getting worse. But before we get into this, I want you to know that you got to be able to just take a deep breath sometimes, because so many people on this journey, me included, are just doing the work. It's like, we've got to work, we've got to improve ourselves, we've got to become better. I want to fix this. I want to heal this. And we start to think that we're broken. We start to think that we're not right. And that's really a really common issue on the healing journey. A lot of people, I've faced it so much. A lot of people face this. And then you spend all this energy and it almost becomes chaotic. It almost becomes like tense, like you're not satisfied. So I want you all to just take a deep breath right now. If you're working on yourself super hard, and let it go. And just start to accept where you're at. This is a really big step, is acceptance. Because when we're working on ourselves, we just think that everything needs to be better. We need to change. We need to have more of our true self. That'll come in time. And I've done so many other episodes that basically break off branches of what I'm saying here. The healing journey it's an entity of its own. Just accept where you're at, because you're not in control. You can only control your thoughts, actions, and attitudes right now. So just accept where you're at. It's the process. It's not the destination. Remember that. We're focusing on the process. We're trusting the process. We're enjoying the process, and we're in the long game, because that's where wisdom comes. Wisdom comes from understanding this process, and then we share it with others. It's not a sprint. I mentioned that in my last episode. Because you'll never actually be satisfied. If you don't do this, you'll never be satisfied with where you want to go when you get there, if you can't even appreciate where you are now. Okay? Remember that. Appreciate now, which comes back to gratitude. What have you done so far? How much better have you got so far? Instead of not getting to your destination and the expectation that you have of that destination, can you just give yourself a little break and say, shit, I actually have come a long way. Maybe I'm not where I wanted to be in my timeline, but I'm going to trust that I'm going to get there because I've done a lot of work. See, I want to use a good analogy of when you're in this process and you've identified this belief, you've identified this emotional behavior and this action, and now you want to get to that destination. You want to get to that goal. You want to remove it completely. You want to become the best version of yourself, and so everyone around you can see you being amazing, and then you can see yourself reacting and responding differently. But then you just either keep attracting situations that keep triggering you, or the person just doesn't leave your field, or the behavior just keeps coming up in different forms after you feel like you've done so much work and you're like, I'm not getting any better, I'm actually getting worse. You know, some people might just feel like they're not changing, they might not actually feel like they're getting worse, but some people definitely do feel like they're getting worse. I want to just let you know, you're actually not getting worse, you're getting better, and you're getting closer to your truth. And I want to use this analogy. First of all, understand that changing any belief or pattern of behavior requires digging to the depths of your psyche. It's like going in to dig up treasure. That's what I say. It's like doing this work is much like digging up treasure in the jungle. Doing any self-development, any self-improvement, any healing process, you're digging up this treasure in the jungle. Imagine yourself, you're walking through with your boots into the jungle and you're going out there to find this treasure, this old belief system, this behavior, pattern of behavior, this emotional reaction. You're going out and you're going to dig that up. Okay, so the healing process would be, the healing journey to that for that end goal would be the process of you going to the jungle, walking to the jungle, digging the holes up, realizing that the map was wrong, you got to dig another hole in this direction, or you've got to walk another mile. That's the healing journey. It's because you're trying to find it and you're trying to get to it. So you're going through mud, you're getting attacked by snakes, there's spiders and all that sort of stuff, right? But then when you start to get to you actually find the location, you find that, oh my God, here is the treasure, we can start to uncover it. And you're digging up this stuff and you're starting to uncover the treasure and you start to see it. And that treasure might represent your belief or might represent this behavior. And you start to see it and you get closer and closer. And then the full propensity of this treasure shines so bright and it's so strong as it becomes more visible and it starts to impact you, and you like sort of turn away and you turn your head away and you put your hand up to block your eyes. And that in fact that carries the same intensity as that belief comes up closer, as that emotional reaction comes up closer, as you're starting to get closer and closer to where it is actually rooted, the propensity of it gets stronger. And so it might appear like you're not changing, it might appear like it's happening more, it might appear like it's getting worse, but in fact, you're actually getting closer to letting it go. What I always say is if it's at the surface, it's ready to go. So any emotion that you're currently working on, when I do this with clients, one-on-one coaches, when I do one-on-one coaching, I'm like, okay, what's on the surface right now? Because that's what needs to go. I don't go looking for stuff because, you had this past experience and we think, oh, maybe that's where we'll go. We'll go, no, what's alive right now? And we let the conversation flow from there. It's the same thing. Whatever's on the surface is ready to go. So if this is getting really intense, the propensity of this belief system or this action, this emotional action is coming up and it's really, really intense for you, you know that it's at the surface. It's more visible than ever because it's ready to be released. Okay, so what I want you to do is actually see it in that way now. Change your perspective on it. Okay, if this is up, let me just witness it. And you can maybe even do a bit of shadow work with it and witness it as being a second entity and speak with it and say, what do you want from me? What are you here to teach me? What do you want to tell me? And that can just be done in a visualization, nothing too intense, but you can just close your eyes and visualize this treasure being your belief as an entity that speaks to you and wants you to know something. That's a really simple method for really powerful shadow work, by the way. So I want you to just observe this whole process. Now that you see that it's actually coming to the surface, this same analogy that I use, just observe this whole process now. The process of walking into the jungle, getting stuck in a quicksand, getting bitten by a snake. These are all the challenges that we face. We might actually get the map wrong, and that's the process of the healing journey. Just observe it. And you can listen to a couple of my other episodes of why the healing journey might not be going certain places for you right now because it's limiting you. I think that was my last episode, not Slip Ups, maybe the other one before that. But you can go back and you can see more of this healing journey, understand it on another level if you're just starting your healing journey. And just start to accept. Okay, I've said this already before, just observe it and accept it. That this is just where you're at. And start to welcome this feeling of where you're at. And then start to welcome this idea of you being fully comfortable with where you're at. I can guarantee you that'll change a lot in the frustration that you feel and the tension that you feel and the confusion that you might feel. Just actually accepting where you're at, not trying to be somewhere else. Just welcome where you're at right now. Fully be here now. That'll change a lot. Be kinder to yourself. You've done a lot of work in an easy way. It's very, very easy for us to forget how much we've actually done. How much we've actually done to get here. Yes, we know that we've got more potential in there. That's okay. But just release the expectation of where you need to be on your timeline. Release that. You'll get there. Just keep the desire to change in your heart. Be kinder to yourself. And just be more present and accepting of where you are right now. You're not getting worse. It's coming to the surface. And when it comes to the surface, it is released just like a tear comes up. They are just molecules of emotion leaving your body. The same thing with tears, the same thing with this energy. It's just energy coming up to the surface. Yes, you can do better at maybe not releasing it onto someone, that emotional outburst onto someone. Maybe you can not blame that person. You can actually control what's coming out of your mouth a little bit more, but just know if it's coming up, just accept it and allow it to come up. Witness it, welcome it, and let it go. Speak to it. Do the shadow work. It's like when you vomit, right? Like this is a good example. It's like when you're vomiting, it's really uncomfortable at the start. When it's really uncomfortable and you feel, you got that like saliva coming up. And as you vomit, it's really challenging. It's really, it's just not a nice place to be, right? And you feel terrible as it's coming out. But then afterwards, you always feel good. After you're sick and you spew up and you vomit, you always feel good afterwards. It's the same thing. You're just vomiting up the belief system. Feels terrible as it's coming up, feels harder as it's coming up, feels intense as it's coming up, but eventually afterwards it's at the surface. Now that you can see it and you have this new perspective, you now say, oh, it is at the surface. Now I'm not going to blame my body for helping me heal. I'm actually going to say thank you for bringing it to the surface right now because it's ready to be released. You've been digging the treasure up all this time. You've been looking at the map. You've been getting stuck in swamps, whatever it is on that healing process in the jungle. You're actually getting closer to your treasure. You're getting closer to your treasure. You're not getting worse. You're getting better. Just keep doing the work. But don't try and be somewhere else and be frustrated because you're not. You'll get there because your intention is that powerful. Your intention is all that matters. You'll get there. Remember why you're doing this and trust the process. Much love, everyone. Take care.